Welcome to part two of this special two-part series. When we are here with Amanda, who's been on the other side, this episode goes even deeper, realer, and further than part one. So I hope you're ready for a wild ride. Welcome to Soul Spy University, where your souls can run free and your minds are free to expand. I'm so glad you're here with us so you don't miss out on this exhilarating experience for opening and awakening souls and minds. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so I can keep existing for you. And if you get anything out of this at all and would like to support me, know there's currently a donation link in the description box for that. My heart is extremely grateful for anyone that sends anything through supporting my soul mission to give you this mind expanding and soul expanding content. Okay, Amanda, I'm so grateful you're alive for part two still. And you know, in previous interviews, you mentioned you felt as if your soul needed a tune-up, and that's kind of why you went up there. What if other people, like I don't know me, feel like we need a tune-up? Do you think there's a way for us to sort of experience such a thing without going before our time? You know, I would love to just go up and come back.
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, something that I have come to believe is very real since my car accident is the power of intention and power of prayer. And not prayer from a religious sense, because that can be extremely dry. And I'm not really a fan of that. But intention and prayer from a magical sense, because our intentions, you know, as probably many people watching this know, are what attracts things to us, the things that we focus on, the things that we put care into. So if a person is wanting a tune-up, but they're not really sure what it is they need, how to go about it, what that might look like, you know, the mind gets involved thinking it knows what it needs. The first thing that I would say is to start setting some intentions that, you know, in your own words, show me what I need to see, Great Spirit or God or divine. Show me what I need to see. I am willing to take a look at things that I have been denying and hiding from myself, things that other people can see about me, but I can't, things that are hiding in the shadow. I allow you to my life in unexpected ways that I might not choose, but you know is best for me. That is a great place to start. I work a lot with prayer and intention in my own life, and I've seen some pretty magical things happen. This is a topic I could go on and on about, but I would say the main things that have worked for me and that I continue to practice are setting intentions on or around the new moon. There's a lot of extra energy for change during that part of the month. And we're actually just approaching a new moon, February 20th. So just, you know, journaling, saying a prayer, mentioning it even to somebody else. Hey, like, this is what I would like more of in my life. This is a great time of the month to do that. And if you think about it, anybody else that's doing intentions with moon cycles, they're also doing that this time of the month. So you're actually joining with millions of other people who are accessing that God-given energy that we have on the planet during the new moon. I have a personal, simple practice of just creating a sacred space where I light a candle, I light a bit of incense, I turn the lights down, maybe put on some piano music, and I align myself away from the outside world, turn off the stimulation. And when I calm my heart, I just say a quick prayer. Hey, like, I need help. You know, this kid feels pretty small right now. I need some support, you know? And this isn't something that's like super popular, but it has worked for me, is fasting. Sometimes I'll fast for 24 hours or more. And that's when there's something big, you know, I need a big change. I need some big help. I want to bring in some surprise transformation in my life in this area, and just drinking water and, you know, some fresh juice for 24 hours can actually really invite in some heavenly energies to shake up your life. So I would say the most intention that you can put into this transformation that you're hoping for is what you will get. And besides prayer and intention, the keys and the treasure is not where we think it is. It's often in the shameful, embarrassing, awkward dirtiness of life that we ignore. We like to pretend doesn't really exist, but it does for everyone. And taking a moment in quiet to be like, wow, like I feel small today. I feel inadequate. I feel like I'm competitive or comparing myself to other people. I feel whatever's showing up, even past trauma, because often those are actually messages from the universe that we have ignored something that needs to be transformed. We've numbed it out. We've pretended. So we actually have these little things coming at us all the time that are opportunities. And I promise you this, once you start acknowledging those things when they show up, and instead of running away from them and being like, I'm curious about that. I'm curious about that inadequacy I'm feeling right now, that smallness. Interesting. What do I need to know about that, God? I accept that it's there, and I look at it as an opportunity to become more real, to become more human. And once the universe sees that you're taking that type of approach to your triggers, it's going to send a flood load more of opportunities for you.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, when I try to put intentions, what do you say to people that around the full moon is like the most resistance? Like for some reason, if I go to manifest between them, I'm like, yeah, right. But if I go to do it on the full moon, it's like so much. I don't know if it's like circumstances already built up prior to that I'm like, and I make myself do it, but it's like so much more resistance because maybe circumstances got crazy due to the full moon coming. I don't know. You know what I mean? Does that you ever have that, or did you ever hear of that?
Yeah. I struggle myself and have since my car accident with the full moon. It never, I used to maybe have a bit of trouble sleeping, but the more sensitive that we become, and I don't mean sensitive as like, I'm going to cry if you say something I don't like. I mean, able to sense. Sensitive is a good thing. The more able to sense you are, the more you're going to feel the powers of the full moon and the new moon. So in general, this is another long topic I love to talk about, but in general, the new moon has a lot of momentum. It has a lot of chariot-like energy. Like I think of the chariot card in the tarot, a lot of ideas, opportunities, people calling, blah, blah, blah. It's fun. The full moon is exactly what you said. A lot of resistance comes up because a lot of our triggers come up. There's less sleep. There's a more intense nature to any feeling that we have. And because a lot of the triggers come up, most of the dominant feelings for sensitive people around the full moon are very uncomfortable sensations, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or physically. And then add on top of that, a lot of women bleed on the full moon. So we've got that, putting more of a fire on it. And I would say that if that is something that you're experiencing, congratulations. That means that you are able to sense and that you are in line with the natural cycles of this planet. And the farther away we are from those natural cycles, the more destructive we are with ourselves and others. So as uncomfortable as it is, it's another amazing opportunity for transformation.
Okay, so it's good to manifest during both.
During the new moon is good for manifesting, and the full moon is great for letting go. I know that, for example, the last full moon that we had, I was feeling a lot more than I have in a long time, a lot of anxiety in my gut. And there was really nothing even going on. Like I didn't have anything big going on in my life. And so that caused me to ask myself the question, if it's not about something that's present in my life right now, what have I not looked at from previous years and stuffed into my gut and just pushed on through life? What do I need to look at? Okay, so let's look at this example. This horrible experience in grade 7. Interesting. I don't have to dwell on it, but I need to take a look at it and have compassion for that version of myself and be like, okay, that was hard. That was hard, youngster. But you don't need to carry it around anymore. You're safe now. So as these things pop up in the full moon, it's more about a letting go and letting things pass through than it is about intentions and manifestation. And then the more work we do on the full moon and in our menstrual cycle, whenever that lands, the more space is created when the new moon comes around.
Okay, awesome. And is it bad to manifest during the eclipse?
It's not bad. My experience with that is that these are very powerful forces of nature, and we are also nature. So eclipses, my experience with eclipses is that they're like the full moon on speed. They can be like the full moon on speed. So it's been best for me to pay attention to what comes up and what needs to be let go on those eclipses. That's my personal experience.
Okay, okay. Now, okay, hang on one second. Just gonna pause. Okay, so guys, I just realized some of the craziest questions ever deserve its own video. So there's actually going to be a part 3. Thank God. Amanda's so nice enough to do that. So right now we're just going to go with this flow. I absolutely love it. Amanda, you know, when you were speaking, it reminded me of something you said in previous interviews that just feels like such a weight off of all our shoulders as we can listen to you, where you mentioned that, you know, this life is, now we almost are going to go into the third video topic, but it's such a millisecond. It's such a speck in terms of the grand scheme of who and what we really are. And I might pause that thought because I don't want to leak into the third video topic since we get kicked off after a certain amount of time. But what I will ask you is, for those of us that are dealing or struggling with a very big decision in our life, like one that it's not like we can make and then go back on. Do you have any divine guidance on that at all?
Can you ask that question again? My internet was a little bit choppy for a moment.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. For those of us out there struggling with, say, like a big decision, like one that we can't go back on once we make, do you have any intuition on that at all, or any input on that at all today?
Yeah, definitely. So I find that I get a lot of answers when I first wake up in the morning, if I'm conscious. So one practice that you could do if you're trying to make a big decision, your mind is just going crazy and you're not getting much, because that's what happens for most of us. Taking a piece of paper and like writing one word, or 3 words, like decision about job, plop it beside your bed and just leave it there for a few nights, especially if you're female around your menstrual cycle, because we're more intuitive at that point, around the full moon, because we're also feeling a lot. And leave it there, kind of glance at it before you go to bed. Don't think too much about it. And then when you wake up in the morning, you know, before jumping out of bed, before looking at your phone or whatever, just see if anything comes to you. And it's probably more than a feeling than like some sort of message in your ear about, you know, if you're choosing between one thing or another. Because when you first wake up in the morning, your mind is still kind of sleepy, but your spirit is very present. And so that's when I get a lot of my messages personally. Another thing about making it go on what feels. And so this could be happening any time of the day, but if you ask me right now about, say, a decision that I needed to make, I do my best to kind of close my eyes, put a hand on my heart. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to go here? Okay, interesting. What does it feel like to go here? and then not analyze it, just catch that first 2 seconds, because after that, the mind will kick in. But I've kind of taught myself to grab the first 2 seconds, hold the information, and then not question it. And the next thing that I do is I tell someone, send someone a text message, oh, I'm going to be doing this. Make a deposit, make a reservation, make any type of material world commitment towards that thing. Because if you don't make a move, I promise you, your mind is going to take over again.
Totally, totally. That's amazing. Okay, I'm totally going to go by that, and I've been going by that. What if someone were to ask, hey, so the only question coming in about it is, what if what if someone has a question that comes into mind, which is, well, what if you're feeling scared because of your, you know, subconscious, like your fears, like your unconscious beliefs that have been programmed into you that are false, that are holding you back, that kind of thing. That would be the only question coming into that.
Great question. I deal with this a lot.
Okay.
And I made a video about this exact topic on my channel because it's very dear to me. So I'm somebody who has symptoms of CPTSD, and I might for a long time, but I'm not willing to allow that to stop me from making big choices. What I do is I notice the fear coming up. I check in with my body. Wow, I feel that in my chest. It feels like a constriction and a tightness. There is a version of myself, a traumatized version of myself, that does not want to move forward, doesn't want to do anything different. And that's normal. And in fact, that reaction that I'm having in my body is not something to be judged or condemned. My body is actually trying to serve me in this moment, because another time when I've taken a big leap or a big risk, things went very wrong. So it's actually trying to protect me. So I just kind of tune into the body, see where I feel it, and then take a pause for gratitude that I have a body that is trying to look out for my best interests. Mm-hmm. Then if there's the spirit part of me, the heart part of me that really kind of knows deep down it's probably the best move to make, but the fear is kind of getting in the way. The next thing I do is think about what step I can take instead of the big one towards that. And I think the example I gave in my video was like, okay, I want to start my own business, but I'm too frightened of like showing up in such a big way in the world. No problem. You don't need to do that tomorrow. Can you fork out a couple $100 and do a couple business coaching sessions? Ask some questions. Get the information that your frightened body needs in order to move forward. When I talk about kind of like leaving my job and selling my house and like doing all these crazy things like that, I was still in that bliss state after the car accident. So I was taking advantage of those forces that were coming up for me. But in general, like I don't live my whole life like that. I deal with that CPTSD. And so I don't let it stop me, but I give myself permission to make pauses and incremental steps towards these big, amazing things that I believe are put in our heart by the divine.
Yeah, thank you. Because like, if we did the thing where it's like, does this feel good? It's like, how do we know if is it our intuition or is it our unconscious fears, Or
right. And that is true. Sometimes we're not, sometimes definitely I'm not in the moment of knowing, is this my trauma or is this my intuition saying, hey, like maybe don't go in that direction. But if you do revisit it, and again, coming back to prayer and intention, putting out there like, hey, I feel really frightened and it's causing confusion and I'm having trouble tuning into my heart, because a lot of times the fear is around the heart and the heart has all the information. Mm-hmm. And so when we pray and ask for help with our heart and then kind of return to it the next day, mm-hmm. a lot of clarity will come. This is the chakra that contains everything that we need to know. Mm-hmm. Everything that we need to know.
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe intuition initially overrides the unconscious fear, and maybe your unconscious fear comes in later, like maybe your intuition does say, yeah, go for it, and then 2 seconds later your thoughts are like, what, you know what I mean? So maybe it really does override it anyway, and then but it's hard when those thoughts come right away to decipher. It's good for us to sort of wonder, pay attention, pay.
Yeah, and on that same topic, one of my teachers used to always say to me, because I would bring that up with her in confusion sometimes, and she would say, Amanda, I want you to ask this question, like, is this really true? What you've just told me, is this really true?
Mhm,
And usually we can answer that question.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Now, speaking of fears and stuff, so here's what's interesting. Like, say someone like, has an intuition, like get rid of your stuff, right? Get rid of your stuff. But then something comes up, like fear, it's like the fear happens. Well, Christina, do you remember when you didn't have any money? Like, what if you have to buy it again? Do you have any insight at all? I love that feeling you had to just get rid of your stuff. That's like my goal. Like, I want to be able to do that. Do you have any advice at all for people like wanting to get rid of their stuff or something like that?
Well, my experience, so right now I have like a bag, and this bag is small enough to go on the carry-on when I fly places. So it's like smaller than like a suitcase that gets checked. Everything that I own is in that bag. And like I've got, I think, 2 photo albums in Canada at my friend's house who's got the dogs. And I'm telling you, like, no one would ever know, from walking down the street, if I'm, hopping on a bus or something like that. I just look like an everyday person. I don't miss anything. And I think it's the fear of, oh, will I feel, and I don't think this is like the way that everyone needs to go, but it's kind of an extreme example for anybody who wants them to minimalize. Before doing the minimalization, there's this thing like, if I don't have that thing or this set of things, I will be inferior. I will be missing something. I will be without. I will be in a poverty situation. I'll be all these kind of things.
I'll be unprepared.
Unprepared, right? And so I've been about 3 years with a carry-on bag, and there's nothing that I've been unprepared for. And in contrast, it's been a lot easier for me in every way. Like if I stay in an Airbnb, they have towels, they have soap, and these are just little things. I'm telling you, everything that's in my bag, I've got, my incense, my rose water, my Florida water, a couple essential oils, 3 or 4 outfits, some pajamas, some toiletries, and my laptop bag and a couple books. Like you really find that it got heavy, because at first I had a couple big suitcases and I'm like, whoa, this is annoying. I didn't miss any of the things. And I actually feel like I could probably live with a purse if I had to. And I never feel poor. I think it's an attitude of wealth. It's an attitude of luxury. It's an attitude of everything I need is going to be provided for me. I don't question that ever, because it's been a reality for 3 years. So I would say that it really has to do with your mindset. It has to do with your mindset of seeing yourself, as a queen or as a king who's on a journey.
Oh my God. So before your experience, you weren't like that. You didn't want to fit your life in a suitcase. And also,
No, I had just to kind of give you a picture, I had like a 3-bedroom house. I'd had that house for 5 years, and it contained, everything that you would picture in a regular 3-bedroom house.
wow. And prior to the experience, do you think you were brave enough to go just, Mexico on your own and all these things that you did on your own?
Yeah, I do. There was a time about, okay, 10 years before that, where my ex-partner and I broke up for a little while. And I did go to Mexico. I took some time off work, like I took a sick leave. It was a pretty stressful time. And I went. And I think and I mean, I only stayed for a couple of weeks that time. We did kind of like reconcile, and I came back. But that 3 weeks gave me a knowing of what I was capable of. So don't discredit like some of the smaller experiences that you have letting go of something or making a big shift, because it could be preparing you for something pretty huge.
That's amazing. That's majestic. And honestly, that's admirable on its own. And we'll get into that afterwards. Um, okay. Okay, this is for the third one. Let's see. I love that. Okay, yeah, all this is pretty much for the third one. But but I love how you mentioned there was two things. One, in the previous video, you mentioned something, and another in another video I'm going to mention now. So it all sort of ties in synchronistically. You know, in the previous video, you mentioned that there's no time and space on the other side. So basically, you know, your grandma could be here helping you and also be working on herself. In that same regard, and in the previous interview, I noticed that when you, during your experience, you happened to see someone up there that you weren't normally friends with down here, to say it nicely, but then up here you were the best of friends, and you were laughing and you were looking at yourselves down here and just having a ball. And, you know, first of all, I love that. I love that. You know, it just reminds me of, you know, when we dream of someone and we feel very close to them. But not only that, I kind of tell everybody that whenever they have a problem with their aunt or something like that, I'm like, you guys, you know, your higher selves are like having a party up there, right? And the other thing I tell everybody, and I love that you mentioned these things because it adds like validity to what I like intuitively feel like telling people, is that the other thing I tell them is that, you know, you're already there. And I love telling them that because in that way they realize you don't have to, it feels like an eternity to wait to see the love that you lost, whether that be your parent or your best friend or whatever. It feels like an eternity till you get to heaven. It feels like all these things. And yet we're already there. We're already there. And I love that. And if we know that, we could access that at any time if we really wanted to, you know, just go in and go up and be in that all knowing of you know, mastery but without an ego, and divinity and calmness, and that love frequency that sort of encompasses all these loves you mentioned that you've experienced there. And I think that's just remarkable to always remember. Can you speak more about that?
That experience,
Yes.
like,
So it's like your friend, what that wasn't,
ah,
that's your friend on Earth. She didn't pass on, right?
no,
Yeah.
no. Okay, so that experience happened in an ayahuasca ceremony. So yeah, I did tell this. I remember I did tell this story, I think, on Jeff Mara.
Yeah.
So basically, we're in the ayahuasca ceremony, and I see you've got, yeah, I'll watch the time there.
Okay.
Often for me, when the ceremonies start, you know, you drink the medicine, and it's kind of like the beginnings of the ceremony can be quite dark because a lot of our subconscious fears start to come to the surface, and there can be like a kind of a cleansing or a purging of some of that energy, some of those memories. And so that's what was going on. So I found myself in the ceremony in quite a dark place, quite under the influence of the plant medicine. And there was this real fight with my ego, like being like, I'm scared, I'm uncomfortable, what am I doing here, what a big mistake, like someone get me out of here, like all these thoughts were going through my head. And instead of surrendering, I was in a huge resistant mode. And I don't know how long this is going on, like 5 or 10 minutes. And then the more the medicine kicked in, the less control I actually had. And then I was like, my brain was really. And so at a certain point, it kicked into my mind, surrender, like you did in the car accident. It was like, how could I forget that? But you know, when we're in the throes of a trigger, we don't remember our resources all the time. So thank goodness I had that memory, and I just leaned back in my pillow and I let go, and I basically did the same move I did in the car accident. And within 2 or 3 seconds, my consciousness went from this very dark place to this very heavenly place. Like basically I was in like a black, dark, negative, out of body void, which parted ways. And it was like white with like gold sparkles, like snowflakes with the sun shining on them. And then that parted way, and I saw this tall tower. And this tower was shiny, it was gold, and it was living. It was almost like it was a living, growing being, really dynamic. And no matter how far I kind of put my awareness up the tower, I couldn't see the top. There got to be a point where I actually couldn't see. And I think that my vibration was only so high at that moment that it couldn't get any higher, or I would have got shown more, but I didn't. And on the outside of this tower was a railing, and on the railing was every human being, every tree, every animal, every bird, anything that was ever created in the entire universe was standing on there. So you'd see like a woman, you'd see like an elm tree, the trees like literally moving and blowing in the wind. And I realized that this was like the higher self of everything, the higher self of everything. So when we talk about tree spirits or human spirits or animal spirits, this was representing them. And then the bottom of each tree or each human body was actually connected to each other and connected to the tower. So in that way, there was a oneness that I started to understand. Oh, this is what people are talking about with oneness, because I never really got it. But this image really got me to get it. And then I stepped outside of time for sure. For sure. I forgot that I was in a ceremony. I forgot that I wasn't on Earth or anything. And I just followed the tower, and I could just think about a person and I could find them. Like it would be like I could zoom into the part of the tower where they were. And leading up to that ceremony, there was an acquaintance, a woman that I knew, and she was also somewhere in the ceremony. And she was somebody who it wasn't a close friend, kind of like, we rubbed each other the wrong way is a nice way to put it. She kind of annoyed me, and I think something about me annoyed her too. And I'd always tried to have, like kind approach to her, but something always felt triggered in me when I was around her. And I located her on the tower and kind of zoomed in. And then I noticed that I was seeing her and I was seeing me. And they were the higher self versions of each of us in that moment. And we both looked like amazing. Like we were glowing. We had kind of like long gowns on, but we still had like the identity of ourself. We had symbols on the outside of our body. I wouldn't say it's skin, but we had like symbols that looked like tattoos, and they were glowing, and they told a story about what we'd been through, what we'd accomplished, what we'd survived in our, they were like an energy signature. And we were up there, and we were the best of friends. We had known each other for many, 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 many lifetimes. We had come to live on Earth, lived out our lives, had interactions, and gone back up there. Or you could say we are always up there outside of time together. And yet I never on Earth had remembered this way of being of her and I together, but we were the best of friends. And to see, this place was way more real than Earth. It was just like absolute authenticity. And then after the medicine started to wear off a little bit, I noticed that I was starting to come down a little bit in vibration, coming back to the earth plane. And so I don't know what dimension we were in. Like something tells me it was around like, the 6th or the 7th dimension, because as I started to return, I could kind of count like 6, 5, 4. And when I was in like the 6, 5 on the way back down, I also could see her and I in another lifetime when Earth had a lot more cosmic connection. Like people talk about Lemuria, they talk about times where we were a lot more interconnected, and I could see lifetimes that we had lived together, and we had served divinity together in really beautiful ways. Like we had memories together that I didn't even know of, and I'm just getting chills thinking about that vision until boom, down to the third. I'm back in the ceremony room. The medicine's kind of wearing off, and she's over in that corner. And so I'm aware of that. And I just thought this was hilarious. And so I had my pillow and I was giggling into the pillow. It's like, I figured out what's going on, guys. You know, that's what I'm thinking in my head. But because everyone's having their own experience, it's not like you can, hey, guess what? You know, like, but that's kind of what happened there with the higher selves. Yeah.
That's so weird because it's like, why would you guys rub each other the wrong way here? You know, because it's like you guys love each other there. You know what I mean? And you were friends in other lifetimes. It's not like it was a former lifetime where it's like, I remember that lifetime I killed you. Sorry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, guys. So we're about to get into everything she just mentioned. Is going to break open the third part of this three-part series. We're about to get real galactic. So if you're down for a wild ride, grab your tea, grab your water, grab what you got going on, because the third one is going to be where most have not gone before. I can assure you that. In fact, I've done other interviews regarding this where I haven't released yet because I wasn't sure if consciousness was ready. You know, like I'm sure they're ready somewhere and here and there or whatever. But you know, sometimes our messages are for who actually is listening right now. So I'm excited. I do feel consciousness is ready at this point. And so I'm excited to go there with her. And I'm excited for our souls to soar amongst the stars. And stay tuned, guys, for part 3 of this amazing, other side talk where we're basically bringing the divinity to this earth that we have to realize is also as divine, and yet such a little spark in what really is what is real. So can't wait to see you guys next time. And Manta, see you soon.
See you soon.